Is shopping for new equipment creating a lack of motivation and a drop in productivity? This is actually a common mistake artists make that results in a huge but avoidable creative block. Let me explain. You see, obsessing over the artistic equipment that you want to purchase is actually preventing you from feeling satisfied with the equipment you already have or have access to. This could easily result in an insecurity over your ability to create what you're passionate about, leading to creative block. This is such a common mistake, and I see it all over YouTube all the time. I mean, think about it. How many YouTubers do you know of that review gear? Thousands? Millions maybe? How many of them have a brand new piece of equipment like a camera or a computer, and then as soon as a new one comes out, they drop that one and have to get the brand new one, and they have a million reasons why this is the one that they need for their creativity, and this is going to open up so many creative doors and blah, 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 blah. Now, I'm not trying to tell you to stop buying gear. Quite the contrary. I encourage you to purchase the gear that's necessary to help your artistic journey and help you succeed. Really, buy it if you need it. I mean, especially if your current equipment that you've been using has either worn out or you're finding that it's inadequate now for the art that you're producing. This is simply investing in yourself and your own artistic journey. But there are such things as vanity purchases. These purchases are completely unnecessary, and they're only to get you the newest or the fanciest or the one that specific artistic influencer is using. And I fell into this trap early on in my photography journey when I was pursuing landscape photography. I saw what the influencers in the community were using to capture these great images. And I thought that if I had the same equipment, I would be able to produce worthwhile photographs. And I was so hyper fixated on camera gear, I wasn't improving any other aspect of photography. So finally, I spent and I spent and I spent, and I bought the dream kit that I had claimed would make me a great photographer. And the truth is, my photos weren't any better. I was the exact same insecure photographer, except now I was in credit card debt. And it took me losing my job and having to sell nearly every piece of camera equipment that I owned, basically hitting rock bottom for me to realize that something needed to change. So how can you tell if you've fallen into this trap and made the mistake of putting your gear ahead of your own artistic journey? Answer honestly. How many hours in a week do you spend watching gear reviews or searching out the newest of something so you can watch a bunch of videos on it? How often do you see an ad or get an email for a piece of gear and think, man, if I just had that, I could create, you fill in the blank? Do you ever meet up with other creators who are doing the same thing as you and look at their equipment and just get this little jealous feeling because yours isn't as fancy as theirs? These are all indications that the gear might be getting more important than the art itself. You might be creating just to use these tools rather than using the tools to create. At the beginning of this video, I made the statement that obsessing over your gear may be causing a creative block. And now that we've had some time to talk about what obsessing over your gear might look like, I feel like we can talk about why it creates a block so that you can understand it and then try to avoid it. A creative block can form in many ways, and it can cause several different responses from just kind of feeling a little unsure about what to do next in your artistic project, all the way to rejecting the art form altogether. And it can be so discouraging to feel stuck in that creative block. It might feel like you can't escape it. In this case, we're talking about the block that develops from focusing too much on consumerism and not enough on creativity. The mistake of putting too much emphasis on buying new equipment often leads to covetousness and honestly just dissatisfaction with what you already have. You'll start using the gear that you have as an excuse for why you cannot create your art. It will consume you to the point where you just won't be able to get your head back into that productive mindset. Again, I want to emphasize though that honestly and truly, if you need the gear, you have to buy it. You got to do the project right? Like, by all means, if you can afford it and you need it, buy it and stop making excuses for yourself. However, if you don't need it, and especially if you can't afford it, forget about it. Just put it on the future plans. Save it for later. Just focus on the gear that you have and the project you're working on. And if you're feeling like the project that you're working on is dependent on that piece of gear, maybe you shouldn't be working on that project, right? Like, you wouldn't want to film a Netflix movie using your iPhone. common sense, really. You really want to focus on the projects that you're well equipped for, both gear and skill, and save those for later. This is an important lesson in patience, and I think we all deserve to learn a little bit of it. If you're finding yourself shopping around for new or different equipment instead of working on your art, then it's likely you're falling into the trap of obsessive consumerism. You'll likely start to experience the creative block that we've been talking about. Your productivity and your motivation are going to drop to an all-time low, and you'll probably feel slightly directionless in your creative journey. And if you are experiencing this and you are finding yourself fixating on a piece of gear that you feel like you need and you really don't need it, like honestly, if you don't need it, you might feel like the only way to move on and overcome the creative block is to purchase that piece of gear so you can get it out of your head. But I'm here to warn you that that does not help. I know from personal experience. If this is how you've been feeling, if this is you, I want you to stop. Just pause for a second. There's actually an easy remedy. You take stock of what you already have in your possession and the skills that you already possess. You really honestly don't need anything more than what you already inherently have. Give it a shot. Try it out. See if you can create great stuff with what you have first. Then if it's not working right and things aren't happening the way you want them to, then consider making a purchase. But try it first and see what you find. You might be surprised by the results. Or you can use the inadequate equipment as a way to train yourself to be more creative. See what I'm saying? Like, take that inadequate gear and still try to make great art. And I think you'll find that you learn how to be creative despite what you have in your possession, which gives you more freedom. Focus first on what you're creating, on why you're creating it. Stop worrying about what you're creating it with. I'd love to know your opinions on this topic. Leave them in the comments below what you think about consumerism, creativity, and the creative block that often accompanies that focus, that obsession with gear. I'm turning a new leaf on this channel. Up until this point, I've basically been doing photography on location style videos. Going out, taking pictures, filming the process. But with time away and a lot of time to reflect and think about it and having to sell like 90% of my camera equipment, I've realized that while I absolutely love going out there and taking pictures and making videos and writing music and stuff like that, I've found I'm really passionate about helping people overcome creative block and find their artistic direction, helping people think a little bit more about the why behind their medium. I really appreciate you taking the time to discuss this topic with me, this fascinating topic of consumerism, of overcoming creative block. Next time, I want to dive into why I strongly believe starting a YouTube channel for yourself, just for your art, could really help you stay motivated during dry spells. So if that's something that you are interested in, go ahead and subscribe, click the bell icon so you get notifications for when that comes out. That's all I got for you. So I'll see you then. Take care.